time. Long time. And so I'm happy. I'm happy. I'll introduce him shortly. I'm full of surprises. And then today, the other friend has decided to look, like Nana Akufo-Addo, albeit that he doesn't want to admit, but he's looking just like Akufo-Addo, the president of Ghana. You see, because he supports a lot, he doesn't, but he looks like Akufo-Addo. Anyway, listen, there are a number of issues that we have tabled for our conversation. And I'm particularly excited that we get the opportunity to sit here and discuss those matters. Now, you know that we've been experiencing some coup d'etats on the continent. Asante Hene has added his voice to the many voices, whether voices of critique or voices of support to what is currently happening on the continent. He indicates that African leaders should do better in order to avoid or avert rather some of these coup d'etats. And so we'll discuss that. But there are also a lot of people who are not particularly excited about his speech. And I think he said something that didn't sit well with a number of the political communicators, particularly in Ghana, I believe. We'll find a way of getting into all of that. Now, I would like to also say that the special prosecutor says, unscrews ex-minister's top secret, ghost name payments from dead brother others. There are them $1 million. I'm told that Cecilia Dapa is still receiving monies from the ghost of his brother. I don't know how that is possible, but in Ghana, everything is possible. Ideas win elections. Baumio! Can't think far. Now, one gets 500 million bail, Republic Press. These are the topics that we've tabled for our conversation this morning. You know that you have from now till 9:30 to share with me what your thoughts are via Facebook, YouTube. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on YouTube. So you can, personally, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter. So you can share with me what your thoughts are via those platforms. And, I'll read them out for you. Let me say a special thank you to Kunim. Cook looks for my suit. I'm smiling, because I'm looking dapper. Even if you don't say it, I will say it. I'll blow my own trumpet. His number is 054 967 4269. 054 967 4269. I'm excited to have been joined in the studios by two of my very, very important people. Dr. Rashid Pepo. Good morning. It reminds me of when you were a boxer, Yeah. Fighting from the blue corner. Caesar. Oh, that was your name. He was a boxer. Oh, really? He was a boxer.
Yeah, I was a boxer.
Recently, this man, he's such a dangerous politician. You know what he did? So there's another big weight in his constituency who wanted to overthrow this tipper truck. So I saw a video of this man, moving like Muhammad Ali, giving uppercuts. then I knew that this man knew that he had already won. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
I've been following you on social media as well.
Oh, great.
You were out of the country.
Yes.
On some important assignments.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Do you care to share with us? Was it on parliamentary duties? Was it on constituency duties or personal?
Well, I also on several occasions I went to Germany because I needed to attract some people to invest in my constituency. That was a private one. Actually, I went to UK on an official duty.
Okay.
But the Germany one was unofficial. I had to meet a friend who said that he wanted to invest in my constituency.
Wow.
So I went there to meet him just for 2 days and came back to London. In London, it was for to understand the new or dynamic policy in mining in Africa. And then, for us to look at the various types of mining and policy directions and the laws that govern the mining industry. Yeah. Then I came and went to Washington. It was to the International Law Institute. Yeah, to have a look at the leadership and legal processes, which was something, I looked at with a few other MPs.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. You want to join the fraternity? Yeah, your wife is. If you want to join your wife, it's fine.
No. Stay there. You are.
Senior lawyer, Apia Dankwa.
Kwame.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You are looking bright and sunny.
Thank you very much.
With a very broad smile. I don't know whether you want to tell us something from the camp of Alan.
Oh no, it's always good to be. It's always good to be alive, and always a privilege. Because I think the right way is a privilege to be on your set.
Thank you.
And also to be in the company of. I didn't know he was a boxer. I love. Because I've always taught myself to be a connoisseur of boxing. I love boxing, and I've followed a lot of boxing. So I'm surprised I never knew Anabo here was a.
I love the UFC. Oh God, kickboxing. No, I used to be a blue belter.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I didn't. Yeah, so when I met around the time. Other things, But I used to, everywhere was black, when I met my wife, everywhere was black, we could punch trees and feel nothing. I remember I visited my auntie in Denu. There was this tree that I used to spar with. I used to spar with the tree. Wow. I even created a hole with a punch.
Wow.
It was there for a while, until they cut the tree down.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I've done things. Oh yeah. The time when you were young, there are so many things, but it's good. I think it's something that I would let my son, pick up. Yeah. Anyway, enough of us. I think it's important that we deal with the issues that we've raised. There are so many of them, but they are very, very important matters. Counsel, let me respectfully start with you. Asante Hene has been talking. I am not really a fan of Asante Hene. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not a fan. Because I consider myself from the Volta region, from the central region, and from the northern region. Even though I grew up in the Ashanti region. But I'm not a fan. That doesn't mean that I don't respect him. But I'm not a fan. But he's been talking, and I think it's important that we draw some important lessons from his statements. That if African leaders do not conduct themselves well, then we're going to see a lot of coups happen across the African continent. We've seen Gabon, we've seen Niger, we've seen Mali, we've seen Burkina Faso, we've seen several other lingering political tensions which may escalate into, coup d'etats and things like that. So what do you have to say to that?
So let me take this opportunity to wish your lovely viewers a good morning. It's a long time since I've been in the company of Anabo, and I'm really excited to be in this company once again. Unlike you, I'm a huge fan of this Asante Hene.
Okay.
And it's not only because I'm a proud Ashanti man, but
How Asante Hene?
100%.
That's how Asante for there, when they are out there.
Oh, but I'm a huge fan of this Asante, not necessarily because I'm an Ashanti man, but particularly because of the manner in which he's redefined chieftaincy and the role of Asante Hene in the context of modern Ghana, within the constraints of our constitution. Because our constitution says that chiefs cannot play a role in partisan politics. And I think also I'm a fan of Asante because of his deep understanding of history, of custom, of culture. Yeah. And I'm so sure that when exactly did he give this speech? Yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yes. Because 19th September is very significant. It's a very significant date, especially in the role that chiefs have played in our politics in time past, and then how they can redefine the role they play in our politics going forward. You know, 19 September 1954 was when the NLM was formed. Yes.
See.
So the NLM was formed on 19th September 1954. And I've always wondered why MPP do not make a lot of noise about that date. Are you also aware that the NLM actually came out of the CPP, the UGCC? The NLM didn't come out of the UGCC. So by 1954, the UGCC was as good as dead. After the whipping they received from the CPP in 1951, they were as good as dead. And also something that people always don't have in their mind was that the Ashanti region was the stronghold of the CPP. The Ashanti region was the stronghold of the CPP.
Yep.
You understand?
And that is why Alan needs to go there.
Yeah, you understand? And the NLM was a group of all. The reason why the NLM had to part from the CPP was on the issue of idea. Kwame Nkrumah believed in a very centralized government system. There are certain elements within the NLM, within the CPP, young, bright men at that time, with those who are Ponsan, Juapia, and the rest, who felt that for we to benefit maximum from government, then it has to be in a decentralized form. At that time, I think the point of contention was whether or not Ghana should be a federalist state or should be. That was the point of departure. And that's how NLM was formed. And when you read MPP's constitution right now, there's a clause that says that we believe that government should be decentralized. Now, when people
people are saying Nkrumah was pushing for unitary government, and then NLM was pushing for more decentralized,
so,
like Nigeria.
In the context of today, because decentralization is even broader than just federal.
Okay.
Because even in a unitary system, you can have a decentralized
Absolutely.
government. And I think, so I want to use the word decentralized now because of the context of the politics.
All right.
We've moved from the unitary and the federal, but even in the unitary system, you can have a proper decentralization. And when you read MPP constitution, you see that. And that's why I think going forward, I think a dissection has to be had into Nanado's system of government, whether he truly represents the ideals of the new patriotic party, a party that believes in a decentralized government as against over-centralizing the powers of government at the very top in any way. I think what Otufo said is something that we have been saying here for a very long time. Why are we unable to sustain democracy in that part of the world? And I think the starting point should be, what is the ultimate benefit, or what should be the ultimate benefit of democracy? What made people attracted to that system of governance, especially when you take into consideration the fact that in the very long history of the world, democracy essentially is less than a century years old in actual practice. Yes, the USA, United Kingdom, have been practicing democracy for over 3 centuries. But democracy as the system of choice, governance system of choice, did not become entrenched until after the Second World War.
Yes.
Indeed, certain people believe that democracy was saved after the First World War. Because prior to the First World War, when you went into Western Europe, you had the empire, a number of empires. So you had the British Empire, you had the French Empire, if it was still an empire, well, it was the Chinese Empire, but you have the Austro-Hungary Empire, you had a German Empire, you had the Ottoman Empire, all totalitarian systems. Now, after you had the Russian Empire under Tsar Nicholas. Now, after the First World War, these empires practically broke up into a number of countries, and then they started off as democratic. By 1939,
Ottomans, Britannica,
all those Ottoman became Turkey,
of course,
and,
yeah.
Austria, Hungary, Czech, what's it called? But by 1939, all these countries, majority of them were back to being totalitarian. You had Franco in Spain, you had Mussolini in Italy, you had Hitler in Germany. Largely, you go to the Balkan states, and they were largely back to being under totalitarian regimes. Now, after the Second World War, democracy was reintroduced into Europe largely, and they've managed to sustain it till now. Now, the question for me is, what are they doing right? Or what are they doing? What kind of systems are they putting in place to sustain the democracy they have? And what are we doing that seems to be undermining our ability to sustain democracy? I think really that's what Otunfo was saying. And my personal view is, to really understand that, then we need to understand what's the ends of democracy, liberal democracy. What's the expected end? When you take our own constitution, 1992 constitution, you know, and the background of that constitution is that Ghana had attempted the democratic experiment 3 times and had failed. We tried it in 1960, we tried it in 1969, we tried it in 1979, and all these instances we failed. So in the 1992 constitution, a serious thought was put into then creating a section of the constitution, chapter that essentially dealt with what we felt should be the ends of democracy. So that was what we call the state policy, the directive principle, which essentially was more or less putting into the into the constitution what we felt should be the end of this liberal democratic experiment we were undertaking once again. So you talk about what a political end, talk about a social end, talk about an economic end. You understand? And really, those should be the ends of democracy. Now, so when we are talking about the political end, you want a system where our political independence is guaranteed. You want a system where we are being governed by the rule of law. You want a system where our liberties, our rights, our right to property, our right to freedom, our right to life are guaranteed. You want a system where ultimately all these put together can grant us an opportunity to then fulfill our economic exactly. That should be the end of you want some social justice. You want a social structure that can essentially enable us to maximize the potential that God Himself has put into us. Once those ends are not being attained, then people would then start questioning whether indeed the system of governance that we are trying, whether only it is worth it or not. And at the end of the day, to achieve that, it boils down to leadership. Leadership in all fronts. Economic leadership, creating of the right culture. When I say culture, not just social culture, also political culture. You understand? And you can attain all this with the right leadership. And forgive me for using this example. But Hitler, it was something that Adolf Hitler taught us. He taught us with a very sustained and consistent leadership. You can imbue into people whatever culture, whatever attitude you want. Because you see, after the First World War in 1918, after the terms of the armistice, it practically broke every fiber of the German, their confidence, their belief in themselves, their social structure, their economy. Germany was practically on its knees. By 1935, Adolf Hitler had managed to build a Germany that felt that they were the most important, the most powerful, the most efficient race in the world. You understand? And forgive me once again for using Adolf Hitler as because we all saw the end to which he directed. But it tells us what leadership can do in forging a certain culture. You take America again. America came into the world scene after 1776, a relatively very young country. And when you talk about the concept of patriotism, you go to America and everybody has an American flag in their house. They talk about the American dream, that this can do spirit. You understand? They believe that the individual can create for himself what he wants. When you're a leader, you understand, you have been given a special privilege to create in your people the correct culture that can lead you to the ends of democracy. Now we bring Africa into perspective here. What kind of culture are we creating? As in, when you analyze Ghana, it's easy to point to how our economy is struggling. But we all know that our economy is struggling, number one, because of the kind of culture we have here, our attitude. You understand? Also, the kind of environment, economic environment or economic ecology that our leaders are creating. You understand? For me, to sustain the democracy, first of all, we need our leaders to create the right political culture. What kind of political culture are we talking here? We're talking about the right political culture that would allow, in fact, that would enable us to openly disagree with each other. That would openly allow us to disagree with each other, and that would demand accountability from those who govern us. We need to create a right political culture where our politics, where people go out and solicit votes based on ideas. I know we are going to talk about Dr. Bamian's issues. You understand? But if you have a country where your vice president says he wants to be president of the country, and he's not told us, not even by one sentence, what kind of Ghana he intends to create. What kind of Ghana he intends to create. Well, throughout his politics, it's always been about criticizing. You understand? Because when we were in opposition, all he did was to criticize without putting to the before. No, I'm not putting. I'm just trying to make a point. You understand? That at the end of the day, we should encourage politics that borders on a discussion, a debate on ideas. You understand? And that's why I was saying that Otumfuo didn't. I believe that in choosing the 19th of September to make this speech, he was being reminded by what happened in 19th September 1954, where certain people in the CPP thought that, listen, we do not agree in principle, we do not agree in terms of idea, we do not agree in terms of the kind of Ghana we want to build, because our leader believes in what's called a very centralized system of governance. We believe in decentralization. So in that case, those of us who believe in that idea, we are going to form our own movement. You understand? That should be the kind of policy we should do here. So Honorable here can be my best friend, but that shouldn't stop us from having a debate on idea. Because you see, what will drive development? What will drive the kind of Ghana we all need? What will drive or build the kind of Ghana that the idea of coup d'etat can't even be sustained in our minds, is to build that Ghana that is premised, that is based on ideas. When we are supporting leaders, we should support leaders based on ideas, because at the end of the day, democracy, governance, power has a certain end, and the end is what kind of society, what kind of community are we building that will ensure that the citizens can make of themselves what they can. Unless we are able to do that, unless we are able to build that kind of community, unless we are able to create a political system that would ensure that the ends of rule of law are guaranteed, that will create a culture that will engender development and transformation. Unless we're able to do that, then our democracy will always be under threat. And I believe that's what Otumfuo.
Thank you. You're still watching the news review segment here on Pan African Television with me, Kwame Owusu. So let me now turn my attention to Dr. Rashid Peku on this subject matter.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good morning to Wa Central. I hope they are watching. Pan Africa is always one of their best stations to watch. Otumfuo has made a very powerful statement. He's a chief of a substance that has been regarded, respected throughout this country, except that he might not be a fan, but I mean, because of the caliber of leadership he's possessed and experiencing going through the rest of us, we see that he has a big voice. So when he speaks, it sounds loud. So this idea of the exhortation he has for Africa about coup d'etats is very critical. It's very important because of where we are coming from. Remember, Africa, after we liberated ourselves from colonial rule in the 1950s and 60s, we move along initially with democracy, and as we went along, we went into one-partyism, a situation where one-party state became predominant throughout the continent. And at a critical time also, where we had the Cold War waging throughout the world. And so where you make a choice of socialist approach to your governance, then you come into confrontation with America. When you make a move towards insisting on a democratic principle and free choice, you come into conflict with the Soviet Union or the Eastern Bloc. So we went until we got to the point when leaders were not functioning the way we all wanted, because the choice for freedom from colonialism was to make an emphasis that the African was capable of managing his own affairs, as Nkrumah said. And so the choice was that because it is now in our hands, we'll be able to develop the country, our countries, and make it possible for people to advance in their lives and make, be able to realize their potential and lead the country to greater achievements. We didn't do that, so coup d'etat started taking place. Now, after the coup d'etats, then the West decided to take advantage of every coup d'etat that took place and said that, look, you have taken over power, but you need money. But if you want money, this is what you get. They decided to give you money from the IMF and the World Bank, but the choice is that you will have to go through some structural adjustments, that before you can advance to any stage and earn money from us and change your circumstances, you have to structurally define and reorganize your economy and governance. So the question of free choice came, liberal economies came, democracy, then defined the whole structure. And that's what we went through in Africa, especially in Ghana, we went through it. When it stopped with Jerry Rawlings' second coup d'etat, he insisted in being socialist. And we all went along with him, the CDRs, all those things that came into place. And then eventually he couldn't continue because there was a choice, either to go that socialist and not earn anything from the West, or if you wanted money from them, then you have to reform the system. We chose the idea of reforming the system and going along with the West. And that brought into play this 1992 constitution, that insisted that there must be a democracy and the choice by citizens would define how governance is run. And so this is the terrain in most of Africa until we've gotten to a stage when leaders are becoming too presumptuous. They're becoming, they now feel that they own the people in the same way as the first leadership came to own the people, came to change the system to one-party state, and then created a problem for Africa. If you look at Ghana and look at Nana Addo and his administration, that's the kind of feeling they have. We own the people, we take their money, they can't complain. We do any kind of policy, it's not a problem because nobody is democracy. And so the people are beginning to wonder, why are our people like this? Why are our leaders like this? And that's how the coup started coming up. If that is the case, then the poor man will also come from the army and take over control. And then you see the people rallying around and supporting them, So Nana's advice is very important. We must begin to realize that if you are a leader, you are a servant. You can't be a leader chosen by the people and then begin to lord it over the people, take their wealth, define it the way you want, spend it the way you want, and then they will keep quiet and watch you. And the character of the Ghanaian is that if you are able to steal as much as you can and go to funerals and donate, churches and donate, mosques and donate, they hail you rather than question where the money is coming from. Okay, look at Cecilia Dapa. They are asking her, where did you find the money? She can't explain. And if you go into many of these people who are in high positions in government, search into their houses, you will find such monies there, except that they are not exposed yet. But she is an exemplary figure of the kind of thing we are doing to our people in Africa. And so Nana's advice is very important. We need to begin to question our leaders, to ask where they get the money to do all the many things they are doing, to be able to ask them why in the last 10 years you were unable to, you own just a house which you couldn't maintain well, and now you own mansions across the country. You even go outside the country to buy a house there. You know, you begin to question them. We are the ones I think we should be questioned. I'm a leader too. I'm a member of parliament, but I think that it is time to begin to question that, starting from now. You know, so if you don't do that, then you don't complain. When you are told everything they want to do, when Bawumia, for example, has told you everything they want to do, and he has failed, but he's come up, and you are throwing away people like Alan, you know, a gentleman, the man who has done a lot to show how leadership can run, very gentle, committed to leadership, but has always been seen to be an obstruction rather than a complementary figure in his party. Anyway, so the idea is that now we begin to re-examine ourselves. Now we begin to question our leaders. Now leaders have to sit up and do the right thing. Repair the streets, repair the schools, make sure the money is accounted for, make sure things are done for people to point out and say, look, this was a leader, this is what he has done. You can point at John Mahama and say, okay, John Mahama, what did you do? He will tell you, I built thousands of schools across the country. I have done your airports for you, several airports. I've done hospitals for you. You can see them. I've trained children, students. I've taken them abroad. They have come back. You know, so many things you can point at when you take just a leader. But if you take a leader and you talk about the leader, he tells you, oh, I'm unable to do it because there was a war in Ukraine. Oh, I'm unable to do it because once upon a time there was a COVID. That's not a leader. When you are a leader, it is important to take into considerations all the externalities which enable you to do the domestic policy. If you don't understand the external workings of the economy, that is the external imposition of the economy outside your own small economy, you can't understand how it can affect your own economy, and you plan only in your domestic situation, and then they begin to happen. They say, oh, it's because of them. It shows failure. It shows poor understanding. It shows incompetence. You know. So I think that we need to sit up, look at the totality of our development, cure the pains that we are going through, help to let the people to understand what is happening, get them to help in the development process, make sure that inclusiveness is very important, not small group of people who go take loans because you want to extract something from it, give it to contractor, take 10%, and all the ways by which money is gathered for one person. You privatize the money, it can no longer go into the public sector, and then you don't know what to do with it. The rules are not done, the money is in your pocket. You don't know what to do with it. You are sending some back to the people who we are borrowing the money from. It's unacceptable. So I think that Ghana, we are fortunate there's no coup d'etat. We don't want coup d'etat. But it's important for leaders in this country, especially the present leadership we are experiencing, to start doing critical soul search of themselves, to understand that the people are watching and that the people are the ones for which they are in office. Other than that, why are you there? And they must not attract any negativity into the political structure we have defined since 1992. They must do the right thing and ensure that, you know, the people are satisfied.
You're still watching the News Private segment here on Pan-African Television. My name is Kwame Owusu. So a big thank you to you that you're still watching us. Those of you who are on social media, you can share the feed so others can get the opportunity to watch. We are on Facebook and YouTube, so yes, you can do the needful. I am also on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram and on Twitter. So Kwame Owusu is the name. Now, there's one particular story which was not captured, but I think we ought to look at it. Dr. SKB Asante is telling Ghanaians and politicians not to impede the work of EC and the judiciary. I just read the first paragraph of it, and then in the final analysis, his definition of sort of impeding the work of the EC is not allowing the EC to operate freely and the judiciary to also operate freely. And then, characterizes that by saying that, when you are an aggrieved party, you go to court for redress. The EC is also there to conduct elections. So we cannot reprobate and approbate. So we cannot criticize the very institution, which institution gives us the relief that we are looking for in the event that we are aggrieved. And we cannot also criticize the very institution which conducts elections in Ghana. And in his estimation, doing that means that we are impeding the work of the EC and the judiciary. I mean, he's a senior lawyer, constitutional lawyer. We respect him, we love him. But do you think that it finds space in logic that you say that an institution which has been created by the Constitution, which Constitution is the supreme law of the land, which Constitution embodies the aspirations and the will of the people, and the very people for whose benefit and in whose interest the Constitution was given birth to, are saying that there are some institutions, which institutions have been given some authority and power to operate such that we'll continue to protect our democracy. Okay? But those institutions are acting in ways which ways are at variance with common sense and with logic, and therefore those institutions must act within the parameters of law and also to act in the best interest of the people. You are saying that those people are impeding the work of that institution? That we are saying that the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary all have their powers emanating from that constitution, which constitution is an embodiment of the Ghanaian people. And when the Ghanaian people are complaining that it appears that the judiciary or the legislature or the executive, arm of government are acting in ways which ways are at variance with the constitution of this country, you are saying that they are impeding the independence or the work of the judiciary? I don't get it.
Listen, I think we should consider seriously what the good prof is.
Let me read what he said. Let me read it. And you are my senior by far, but let me read it. And let's try and I understand why you may want to go on a certain, and I'm not saying that you should follow my argument, but listen, a constitutional expert and paramount chief of Asokore Asante, Nana Dr. SKB Asante, has called on Ghanaians, especially politicians, to allow the judiciary and the Electoral Commission space to perform their duties in the interest of the country. Brilliant. Quote, materially, you cannot attack the judiciary or the EC and at the same time expect them to perform their public functions.
You see, so I think I've made my view on this issue on your platform. Now, I just said that we need to create a culture that would allow for the disagreement and demand accountability.
Yes.
But having said that, you see, we should do so within the context of building those institutions and to protecting the purpose for which we have those institutions. There's a reason why he didn't mention the legislature nor the executive. Now, when you consider the EC is meant to be more or less the referee in this election process. The judiciary is meant to be a dispute resolution body. And so it is necessary for their work to be done and done well if there's this perception that they are not biased, if there's a perception that they can deliver justice. So that immediately we criticize them in such a manner as to destroy whatever integrity they have. What we stand to lose is bigger, is so big that as well, when politicians are criticizing them, then they must do so cautiously. And that's why people raised a lot of issues with John Mahama's position on the judiciary, especially so when the restructure of the judiciary, the kind of jurisdictions that has been created. Kwame, you agree with me that the judiciary has original jurisdiction,
Of course.
appellate jurisdiction, supervisory jurisdiction, review jurisdiction, and the essence of having all these kinds of jurisdictions is to give themselves the power
To check themselves.
to check themselves. You understand? And so I believe that because of those powers, we should be careful when we are criticizing the judiciary, because then what you then do is to create a situation where people won't even trust in the ability to dispense with justice. Same with the EC. Except that, but you see, but then it cannot be sacrosanct. These views cannot be there should be very few instances where you should criticize them. But there must be so serious issues that borders on massive departures from their core mandate. And a case in point is how the EC is behaving now. You understand? Because it's a massive departure from the purpose for which the EC was set.
This statement, referable to SKB Asante, is in view of what is currently transpiring
Yeah,
within
the
the
EC.
EC.
Yeah.
Exactly. So to the extent that you say that we should allow the EC to work, and of course politicians will always go overboard to say that you are working in the interest of one political party. But why won't people conclude, when it does appear that whatever suggestions that emanate from the quarters of the opposition party, are not accepted and are not worked on, but suggestions from another political party is being, used and worked on as they progress. So some of these things leave a lot of doubt in the minds of especially the opposition parties, whether or not the EC is acting independent of the other political party, which is supposed to be in bed with them. So these are some of the critical questions. And when people raise these questions, are we saying that the questions therefore then are not grounded in logic and common sense?
No. What the professor is simply telling with the
Yes.
politicians. He didn't say that you should not criticize. He's just asking us to have a very deep circumspection about issues that we criticize. Because there are two issues broadly over the past 2 weeks.
Yes.
The allegation of the packing
Yes.
of the judiciary
Yes.
and the ISIS issue.
Yes.
And I'm saying that we should criticize, but we should do same with a lot of
No,
circumspection.
to be honest, as for the packing of the judiciary, I don't even want to comment on it.
Exactly.
Because I think that is a constitutional right.
Yes, exactly.
If we want to change it, we must review the constitution
But
and
you
take the
see-
powers from the president.
Yes,
So that one, I don't want to go there.
But I'm saying that it doesn't mean that there are instances where we should be able to criticize the judiciary.
Of course.
People have done the same in all manner of forms. But then I'm saying that we should do so when the judiciary or the EC have massively departed from
No,
their
I want
command.
you to decouple the judiciary from the EC.
No,
Because you said the judiciary or the EC. The EC's
the
functions
judiciary-
are extremely
If you say
different.
and the EC. So let me say so the judge
Yes.
and the EC.
Yes.
And I'm saying this because essentially both of their first of all, they need a certain level of neutrality.
Yes.
They need Ghanaians to believe in their neutrality.
Absolutely.
They need Ghanaians to believe that they are dispensing with justice. Yeah, you understand? Once that perception is not there, then they can't work. You understand? So when you are criticizing them, because of the critical role they are playing in this democracy, you must criticize them without creating that perception, helping to create that perception in the minds of Ghanaians that they are unable to dispense with justice or with their sense of neutrality, unless there's a clear and incontrovertible evidence that that's the EC and the judiciary, are departing radically from their core mandate. And I'm saying that when I take the EC, the reason why I support a criticism of the EC in particular, because I think that it's a massive departure from its core mandate. Because when you're taking certain steps, that really is going to disenfranchise people. You understand? When you've created an IPAC, you understand? And what the IPAC is supposed to do is to, first of all,
to help streamline.
you understand?
Yeah.
And you're acting contrary to what IPAC is saying.
Exactly.
Then that one, I think it's in the interest of the country that we let our voices be heard. Because what the EC then is doing is to create a situation where people won't even trust in the EC's integrity.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, that we should
But
consider.
that should be, with the grace of it, that should be the fundamental argument we must have.
Yeah.
It is not in all cases that we must have clear evidence circumstantially, all the things that the EC has done since, in fact, people can even conclude that on the basis of the removal of Charlotte Osei, which brought about the introduction of Jen Mensah, Bosman Asare, and the other deputies, the conduct of these personalities, from when they were made the, in no particular order, the deputy directors and the deputy chairs and the chairs of the EC, is one that people can conclude that they are acting in ways which appears to be favoring one political party as opposed to the other, circumstantially, because all the activities are so bound up as to lead you to some conclusion that
you have raised a totally different issue here.
No, I've not.
No, let me explain why.
Because
let me explain why.
Please.
So right now you are not talking about the issue about the EC's function itself. You are talking about the duty of the president when you are making
the function of the EC. With the grace of respect, the functions of the EC is in the Constitution.
No, I'm not disputing that.
Okay.
What I'm saying, you are saying that, so you made very critical examples.
Yes, sir.
The one with the removal of Jen Mensah.
Yes.
Two with the appointment of, with the removal of Charlotte Osei.
Yes.
Appointment of Jen Mensah, appointment of Bosman, appointment of
so
people believe them to be MPP.
Absolutely.
Now I'm saying there are two different issues because one, with the examples you are given, the matter falls on the appointing authority. So when you are appointing an EC, because you know the EC ought to be not only neutral, but people must believe the EC to be neutral, then in appointing, there's a duty on you to appoint people who any political coloring. That's why there are two issues here. So in that case, then the criticism is not on the EC per se, but on the president. You understand? Who made those appointments? Because
there are two issues. The president can make the appointments, but the conduct of the person in that office is extremely important.
There are two issues. We cannot
decouple two.
Yeah, we cannot deal with them because first of all, you must appoint.
Yes.
In appointing,
yes.
Don't appoint people.
Okay.
Whose integrity and obviously the integrity of whatever they are doing will be put into question only because of the perception that they belong to a certain a partisan group. Yes, because you can appoint ECs who are partisan. The mere fact that people attach a certain coloring to them, whatever they do, whether it's even is the best, people will still not trust that. And secondly, when you have appointed an EC, whether you are neutral or not, in the way you also conduct yourself, don't conduct yourself in a manner that will also prejudice the integrity of the EC. You understand? And all those issues, in my opinion, have been breached over the past 6 years. One, by just the appointment of people who are perceived to be MPP. First of all, there was a breach, and the way they themselves have conducted themselves, especially over the past few weeks with this.
Thank you very much. Let me come to Dr. Rashid Pelpo. And again, maybe you will find some space in your submission to address this, my private or personal challenge, with respect to IPAC and its functions and, whatnot, characterizing the whole IPAC, whatever. My thing is this: it is not all Ghanaians who belong to NDC, MPP, PNC, CPP, KOIZ. There are some Ghanaians who do not belong to any political party and in fact make their decisions on the day of the election. Those people are not represented at IPAC. And therefore, whatever decisions are taken at IPAC must invariably benefit those persons who do not belong to any political party. Now, one would have wished that the conduct of the EC, even if they are not happy with the NDC and therefore they may be doing things which things may not benefit the NDC, should have considered the larger number of Ghanaians who do not belong to any political party in its decision making. So if people raise concerns or ask relevant questions pertaining to the activities, actions, inactions, omissions of the EC, why then will Dr. SKB say that we should not impede the work of the EC when people genuinely are raising concerns about the conduct of the EC in respect of this limited voter registration exercise?
Thank you so much. I think that Dr. SKB Asante is talking about the legal frame within which each of these organizations operate. They operate as independent bodies. The EC and the judiciary are completely independent bodies and should not be controlled by any political party or by any other organization. In that sphere, it is true that because of who they are and how they are, they can operate without interferences, or they should and must operate by interferences because of what is defined in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And, yes. But because of what they practice and how they practice it, not everybody can sit down and just watch them to do what they want to do. You see, for example, the president has a right to appoint. But if the president goes to appoint people who are already prejudiced and who are already politically inclined, in support of him, and whose pronouncements are questioned, and you say people should not question that, I mean, it's unacceptable. So, in other words, the same constitution that has guaranteed the rights of these organizations has also guaranteed the rights of individuals to examine what they do, to criticize them if there's a need, and then to be able to do an oversight of their functions. Because if there's no oversight, there's no criticism, there's no examination of what they do, then they are lost. They can rather use the system to hurt the people. The voice of the people must be heard. Look at this limited registration exercise. Let me just take WA Central, WA East. You take WA East and say at the WA East district, which is at Fancy, everybody else should come there to register. People are at a place called Logo. They travel 30 kilometers to WA, take a vehicle, go 120 kilometers to the center to go and register and do that same journey back. Is it possible? You are at Duse or Cheko, you travel about 10 kilometers to Bulenge, take a car from Bulenge, travel about 30 kilometers to Wa, then take a car, go travel 120 kilometers to Fancy to go and register. Can you imagine that? I mean, it's virtually saying that, look, those of you who are far away, you don't need to register. Because how can they do this? How can a young man who just turned 18, not working, supposing doesn't have parents who can give him money to do all these trips, and come back the same day or 2 days later? It's not possible. So they should have reasoned properly that this is not the kind of program and request you send to Parliament. I heard the EC chairperson saying that, oh, it's Parliament that has approved it. Parliament approves what is before it. We don't do your policy. You do your policy, you ask for your money, and bring it before us, and we approve it for you. So what was in your mind when you were thinking like that? We criticize this. Look, the concept is that in Parliament, you can reduce policy. You can reduce expenditures. The budget you bring before us, we can reduce it. But we cannot increase it. You said you want to do it district by district. But you didn't tell us that you place it at one spot and then let everybody come there. You said you do it district by district, and you brought your program and your financial request, and we approve it for you. We didn't define the projects, the policy for you. You defined your own policy. You decided to do it that way. We simply approve the expenditures you brought before us. So it's not Parliament at all. It's about the EC itself. And they have an intention to do that. You know, people are thinking that, oh, many of the people who vote for the NDC are in the hinterland. So let's make it difficult for them to register, so that in the end, we'll have fewer people who register there, and you have more people who register in the center, and NDC would lose the elections. That is the impression people are. If that is not the impression, why do you make it so difficult for people who are farming and creating all the wealth for us in the cities now suffer when it comes to choice of who leads them. Why do you decide to impose that suffering on them? You know, I'm having a challenge also in my constituency. You have people who are coming from all the way, let's say Tabiasi, number 1 and number 2, far away from Wa, travel all the way to one point at Jonga, take a car from there, come to Wa, register, and have to do the same trip back again. You know, and it's all over. Everybody's complaining. And I thought that when the commissioner came to make her remarks, he should simply have said, well, we think that this thing we have done maybe was an oversight, and we didn't anticipate that people would suffer this much. So we will reorganize it in such a manner as to get all people registered. Rather than, you know, trying to explain the sequence and taking the responsibility, he's shifting it away and saying, it's the MPs, they approve it for us, so they shouldn't. What's this? It's unacceptable. I think that we will criticize them if there's a need. We will not destroy them because their existence is part of the reason we are doing this democracy, or we are embarking on a democratic experience. But we will not do it out of nothing. To do it out of nothing maybe is what he's talking about. But to do it as because there's a substantive reason, it is inevitable. We definitely have to do it and criticize them. EC in particular must take his time. One of the EC officials pointed at a political party and they said they called the party is a risk to Ghana's democracy.
Yeah, I remember.
Why will EC not think that their actions and their pronouncement is a risk of Ghana's democracy? And you are thinking about a political party. This is unacceptable. So I think that we must be careful in the kinds of things we say, and the leverage, too much leverage we give to organizations such like EC and the judiciary. You know, that makes decisions. Sometimes they make pronouncements and then they go to make judgments, and you know, you stand to question the reasons. And it's logical for you to question them because that makes society develop the way we want it. These organizations are doing everything they do for the benefit of the people. And if you do and exist because of me, and I pay you because of that, and I don't have the right to talk, it means your existence is tyrannical. It's not in support of my existence in freedom and justice.
Very well. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Popo. You're still watching the Newspaper segment here on Pan-African Television. I'm learning a lot this morning, you know, from these wonderful panelists. I believe you're also learning a thing or two, but we are not the sole repositories of knowledge. And so for those of you who are in your homes or your offices and you want to share, you know, a thing or two with us, kindly share by sending your messages to us, and then I'll read them out here for you. I wanted to ask a question, but I guess I've changed my mind because of time. Dr. Bawumia has been talking, and it's quite surprising to me when he begins to talk about politics of ideas and not politics of insults, particularly when he is the definition of politics of insults in Ghana. I mean, and I told you some words that when you use on me, I will go gaga. Incompetence, useless, you are not serious. Those kind of condescending, disrespectful, you know, words. He described at the time a sitting president as being incompetent. Do you know? Let me Google the definition. Maybe some people just use the word without necessarily understanding what it is. You know, you not having or showing the necessary skills to do something successfully. A forgetful and utterly incompetent assistant. Example. I mean, it's quite strange. And Dr. Rashid Popo, let me start with you. In his own internal elections, he said, now, let's not engage in politics of insult, let's engage in politics of ideas. rather than insult. And this is a person who has, his reputation as being one who introduced the word incompetent to Ghanaians. Let's hear from you on this one, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. As for my brother Bawumia, his existence in politics and his pronouncements are tragic irony of a person who wants or who talks about progress, and it's a definition of failure and retrogression. Bawumia's pronouncements gave many of us, even though we were in opposition, some confidence that when he is in power, some change, positive change will come into this economy and people will be happier in Ghana. In the end, everything turns out to be the opposite. Remember when he said that we have a lot of money in this country,
Yes.
and that we can run this economy without borrowing money.
Yes.
I know Ghanaians will remember this. And he even pointed at some of the places we can get the money. Bank of Ghana and road tolls. He said we can get money and run this economy. But from the very moment they came into office, with all the people he mentioned as members of the economic team, they decided that borrowing will not define our economy. They borrowed from, remember the first borrowing they did, 2.25 billion from Eurobond.
Yeah.
And subsequently have been borrowing, not knowing exactly what to do, to a point when 104% of total revenue is used to pay debt services. Can you imagine that? Meaning that we don't have anything anymore. So, for Bawumia to talk about anybody who is incompetent, it's now like fun. It's not like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not as if you want to make people laugh. Because the man himself is a definition of incompetence. He and his boss have not succeeded in doing anything that they have made big pronouncements on and earn a lot of votes out of. From the senior high to how they will make money to the roads they say they will construct. Remember Bawumia said he will do road construction, and now this time it's going to be concrete.
Yes.
I hope you remember that.
I remember.
I don't know which one road in Ghana has been constructed by concrete. And
Apia Dankwa will tell us.
and remember the one constituency, $1 million. One constituency where they have gone to present $1 million for anything to happen. None. I mean, everything surrounding them is like lies, deceit, and going for what other people would imagine is fraud. Because it's fraudulent to say that I'll do this for you if you do this for me. In the social contract, you don't do it. And then I have given you mine. And you are staying there, and he wants to come back to become president. Can you imagine that? Sometimes when you imagine that this man will contest with somebody like Alan, and then Alan is now relegated to the background. Anyway, Alan or Bawumia, NDC have no problem. We can beat them both, any one of them. It's not a problem. But at least within the MPP circles, they should know who they can pick and be able to
market,
advertise and get some semblance of recovery of the depth of deception and failure they have sunk Ghanaians into. They are failing to do that. So Bawumia's description of NDC or John Mahama as incompetence is now a laughing matter. The man who changed the circumstance of Ghana, from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Gerald Rawlings, any other person who has done so much for Ghanaians is that short period of John Mahama and Atta Mills. And then you call it incompetence. You describe the economy in a funny way. Today, everything you said, you have done it 10 times below the average. And then, you know, it's a laughing matter. Sometimes I don't know what to say. Right. I think that Bawumia should begin to rebaptize himself. You know,
yeah, all right.
as a politician.
All right.
You know, paying all respect to the people and asking for forgiveness rather than contesting for any elections again.
Well, most grateful to you, Dr. Rashid Pearl-Poh. Let's conclude the show with counsel.
So, Kwame, when I saw the topic, I said, "Oh, Kwame, what kind of temptation is this? You want to put me in a situation where I'll say things. I don't like talking about Bawumia. And Bawumia, you see, Bawumia is an example of the kind of politicians a young upcoming politician should not want to be like. Of course. You should not want to be like Dr. Bawumia. And Dr. Bawumia says we should do politics of ideas and not of insults. And I can't believe he's saying this. I went to St. Anthony's Preparatory School, Latebe Hoshi. Our motto was D's, not worse. Joe Biden's dad said that he said, show me your budget and I'll know what your commitments are. So show me something. Dr. Bawumia says we should do politics of ideas. My first question is, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, what idea have you shown us? Have you demonstrated or have you told Ghanaians an idea of how you think Ghana ought to be like? Idea of how you think governance ought to be done? What idea? Dr. Bawumia has not shown us any idea. You see, going to the 2016 elections, if you listen intently to Dr. Bawumia, he didn't propose any idea. MPP came on largely three broad ideas. Free SHS. You all know that Nanado, free SHS was the baby of Nanado. One on 1D1F, which was supposed to lead the economic transformation. You all know that was Alan Chamanten's idea. On this planting for food, then you all know it was Akoto's idea. You understand? What idea going to 2016? All what Bawumia did was to criticize, give theories. Two, when it comes to that political culture that says that things about Ghana, because you want to create a political culture that will unite. Dr. Bawumia didn't do that. He's creating a political culture that divides. Throughout my following of politics, he's the only politician who is saying that vote for me because of where I'm coming from. He's the only politician who is a vote for me because I come from the northern region. We've had northerners being present in Ghana here. We saw Liman, we saw John Mahama, and the two of them won't be the last northerners who will be present in Ghana. There'll be many more. You understand? But he's the only one. Because when Mama wanted to become president, he didn't vote for me because I'm a good German.
No.
When Liman, I wasn't born then, but nobody has told me that when Liman was campaigning, he said vote for me because of where I come from. You all saw the Asen Austin. That crass disrespect. Have a senior party man on stage speaking. And you Bawumia could not master 1 ounce of respect. You go and you disrespect Alan Chamanten in this manner. You understand? Disrespect. You didn't even have the cockroach audacity to apologize after this crass disrespect. And what is he saying? That we should do politics of...
That's a big insult.
Politics of ideas. Now, you have a former president of this country. Because you see, I always say this, I've said it here, so I'm not afraid to say it. When you're president, when you're president of Ghana. So John Mahama, whether you voted for him, you don't vote for him, he was president of Ghana. He goes for, the Muslims invite him for an action. You go and call him what? Malam John. That was disrespectful. You understand? The way he's conducting himself in this MPP internal primaries, he's conducting himself without any value, any principle, any idea. When I see Dr. Bawumia, I see a man who does not have any idea, any principles, any values. In Northeast, in Northeast, you have a situation where in an internal election of a party that claims to be the custodians of the liberal democratic ideals, Anantwi Martin's agent is beaten to pulp. His eyes are practically closed.
He went beyond insult.
You understand? If Dr. Bawumia believes in any ideas, any values, if he has any principle, what has he said? Condemning those acts of atrocities. What has he said? And my anger, and I'm very angry. Not because as I'm a Democrat, I'm angry that people, leaders, would dare to follow this man who has no idea. So what are they following? Those of you following Dr. Bawumia, what are you following? Those of you who want to foist Dr. Bawumia on us. Do you think about Ghana? Do you think about Ghana? I think we are too interested in parties. So when you bring anybody at all, when you bring any, you see, we should be careful. Because otherwise, what MPP want to do right now is to sell poison to Ghanaians. To sell a man who has not demonstrated that he believes in any ideas, who has not shown that he believes in any principles, who has not shown any kind of commitment. You understand? To value that Ghanaians respect. You understand? That the New Patriotic Party, not the Honest People's Party, but there's a difference. You have the New Patriotic Party that has those wonderful ideas that Ghanaians believed and voted for in 2000. What we have now is the Honest People's Party, a Machiavellian party. You understand? That believe that for them, the end justifies the means, and that end is power. So whatever they do to get that power, if it means beating, maiming, killing, they don't care. Bawumia represents those ideas that Bawumia represents. Because Bawumia has not demonstrated any commitment to any idea.
No.
You understand? So when you ask us to support him, what are you asking us to follow? So Dr. Bawumia shouldn't anger people here. You understand? We won't tolerate politics of hypocrisy. You see, we are creating a country. We are creating a country that believes and adores certain values and certain principles. And when you're a leader, you should be guided beyond all else by those values, those ideas, those ends. And Dr. Bawumia has not shown that he believes in any ideas. All Bawumia has shown is that his politics is about insults, it's about tribalism, it's about crass disrespect. You understand? And you see, and our view, how we see him. Because I know some of our people, after Anantwi Martin decided to drop out, some of us think they can go and follow Dr. Bawumia. We won't follow Dr. Bawumia. Me, and the quote me here. I won't follow him. We will oppose him. I'm telling him, should MPP elected to have a rule shock? Because at the end of the day, they want to create a Ghana where people, they want to create a society where people think they must be more loyal to a party than the country. Why do we have parties in the first place? We have parties in the first place because we want to create a better Ghana. Yeah, you understand? So when you use the deception of party, and you want to use the party to sell poison to Ghanaians, well, that's what they are attempting to do. To sell a man who is devoid of any idea, who has no value, who has no principle of how Ghana, of how real governance ought to be. Who doesn't come to insult you, to disrespect you, to cause people to beat you, and to do all manner of things to you, so long as he will get power. We have been deceived once. We have been deceived once by Nana Addo. Ghanaians should open their eyes wide. We should open our eyes wide, because what is at stake is bigger than any one of us. We should not allow ourselves to be led astray under the guise of this. The word that is coming to my understanding. So I beg Dr. Bawumia should spare us.
Thank you.
What if there's anything that I know?
Thank you.
I know majority of Ghanaians also have the same view, that he's a politician that we should all aspire not to be like.
All right. Monday William Jakes says, good morning, Mr. Kwame Owusu. So today your panel is very competent. Clexen Chooks says, hey Kwame, are you sure they will allow the learned lawyer to come back on your show and communicate for MPP? Good morning, Pan-African Television. I love the statement by Dr. Rashid and just borrowing. Please keep the good work. Watching live from Segbe Akato inside Mathilda Restaurante at Togo. Thank you very much for watching us from Togo. KOD, to be honest with you, Bawumia and wife were using the English word against the former president without understanding what they meant. Today, we've now known that he is the most incompetent, insensitive, and has no credibility. Abida Pokuaka has written an essay for me this morning. Good morning to you, Pan-African Television. Ghanaians have a whole misconstruction or conception about democracy, and it is very worrying. The Western world that have practiced this type of governance system for a long time differ in approach, form, structure, and how it operates to deliver to our people. So we should interrogate our political system thoroughly, especially when it is not delivering to the people, and we must drop it immediately. We cannot have a governance system that continues to impoverish the people, empower very few to dictate the developmental trajectory of this nation. We need to redefine our political system in the African context and perspectives, believing that all types of governance system are democratic but can be dictatorial. And even worse, under the so-called democracy that continues to obscure the right of people to make stipulations on issues. This is rather dangerous than autocratic governance. Thank you very much. Nasser Mohammed says, one of the strange excuses given is to protect the sanctity of the register. In 2020, they said about 30,000 double registrations, etc., were discovered and expunged. So should you say that because of 30,000 you disenfranchise about 1 million people? Well, Kujo says, Johnny Kujo says, good morning to you. These political appointees who are at the issue trying to listen to their appointor, if care is not taken, these people will create chaos in this country. Good morning to you, Dr. Damblo, Alidu Abdul Rashid, Wupini. Good morning to you all. I pray that the Almighty Allah should descend. Okay, no, what you are asking for, I cannot read. So, but thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Pepo, for your time. I'm grateful. Thank you to you, Lawyer Appiah Danquah. And thank you to those who found the time to tune into Pan-African Television from wherever it is that you're watching us from. Let me say a big thank you to the provider of this beautiful suit that I'm wearing, that I'm rocking, that even Council Appiah Danquah is jealous of. You know, the color is different.
I like the matching.
Yeah, I'm telling you. No, Cooks looks actually.
Jacket from him.
Oh, Cuckoo. You see, the whole boss himself needs a jacket from you. So you go and see him. Fantastic. Cuckoo. So today you have 2 new clients. 054 967 4269. 054 967 4269 is his number. Call him Cuckoo. Use the promo code KOD or Pan-African Television. Tell him that you watched the show and Kwame gave his number out and you like his stuff, so you want to buy. He'll give you a huge discount. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time again. Thank you for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. A big thank you to my producers. I'll see you guys tomorrow. But there's an interview coming up. Stay with us. Don't move a muscle.